Okay, so as you can imagine, the whole of the branch is going to be done using exactly the same technique that you just saw. So the first stage of that is getting the darks in place, blocking in the major colours that we see in and tonal values, getting that all roughly right but a little bit darker than I need it in most places, and then coming in with the texture on top of it. Okay, so the highlights and usually re-establishing the darks as well. So here I'm just looking at the shape where we're seeing that bark peeling back. That's really interesting by there. We've got the shadows in there as well, the darks. I don't want to lose those now, so I can put those in place as well. So you see, sometimes you've got to layer a couple of colours on top of each other to get close to the colour you want. So that's some major colours in place. I've re-established those dark areas where we've got those cracks in the wood. And now I can start to come over, refining it, darkening areas, squinting at the reference quite a bit, just looking at the major masses still. No texture, no details really yet. Now things like where the bark looks like it's peeling up, that's just really light against dark. Okay, so we're not, as I've said before, we're not really drawing or painting the object. By the very nature of the light against the dark in the correct area, our brain will just tell us, you know, that's peeling bark. Simple as that. Okay, so just concentrate when you're doing things like this on what you're seeing. So just by picking out the edge, you see with the light, just slightly lighter, and pretty much instantly it just starts to look like peeling bark. And just the edge around here, sharper edge on the top, and then it blends more at the bottom, so I go a bit lighter for the bottom. You see, just picking out the highlights, and about here as well. So just a minute's work on that area, and you can see the bark peeling and going away from each other. Now that's what I'm going to continue doing, just picking out highlights, adding some more of the colours and more of the refinement. Okay, so you see how I block in the major masses, how I make sure I've got my darks in the right place, how I refine it, and then like I'm doing now, how I finally come in with the highlights and the texture and the little speckles and the lichen. So I've built up probably 4 or 5 different layers, each building in accuracy on the one before. Now obviously this is a complicated subject. I don't expect everybody just to be able to do it. It's taken me a while to build up the skills, to think I can tackle it. Okay, but if you want to practice something like this, you can just do a section, don't forget. You don't have to do big huge drawings or complicated drawings, you can just take an interesting section of, say, the bark, maybe just 4-inch square, bit of scrap pastel mat, and just concentrate on that part. That gives you the confidence then where you think, okay, and that's what I did around the hand. Once I gained the confidence, I knew I could do the rest. As long as I didn't rush it, I knew I had the techniques and the ability to do the rest of it. So doing small little sections, small studies, that's a good way of practicing and gaining that confidence. So I'm going to do exactly what I did around the hand and just add some more of these highlights and darks to this area. Now the advantage we have with pastel matte paper is the ability to layer light on top of dark, dark on top of light, but to do multiple layers. And all the other papers that I've tried, they just don't work like it. Okay, it's because we've got on the surface a fibrous structure. So rather than a sandpaper where we've got those peaks and valleys, pastel matte surface really holds the pastel to the surface. It kind of gets caught up into that tangle of cellulose or fibers that we got on the top of the paper. Now of course you can use other papers, but what I found when I was trying those was that you need to blend a lot less. You need to be more direct with your approach. With pastel matte, as I said, because it holds the pastel, you can loosely blend, or blend with your fingers in the initial layers, and it really doesn't just wipe away and blend to a mess. It really does hold it, and if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see me doing that quite a lot. As the layers go on top and more pastel is deposited and we get to the stage that I'm at now, you see I don't really blend at all with my fingers, because when there's lots of pastel down, further blending will just push all that pastel together, and rather than it being just a little bit fuzzy, it gets really kind of muddied up, okay, and you lose your definition. And lots of artists on my Patreon channel, they come to me sometimes and they say, it's like I'm putting the detail down, I'm doing a little bit of blending, and the detail just keeps going, and I'm adding layer upon layer. And that's because you want to really do the blending on the first initial layer, and then gradually you're doing less and less blending as you're adding details on top. And as you can see, as I'm working here, I'm usually working from dark to light, so I'm going darker on the underlayers, and now the highlights are generally lighter on top. And that's the same when we're doing things like fur and skin. Naturally the highlight is on top almost all the time, and by the nature of pastels, whether it's pencils or the sticks, we can put that light on top, so it really makes it much easier. We don't have to reserve highlights much. You can just go slightly darker on the underlayer and then really lighten on top. So as I end this short YouTube video, hope you've enjoyed it, picked up some tips and techniques along the way. Of course, this is just a short version of, I think it's 3 hours or so for the frog on my Patreon art channel. And when you join up, you get access immediately to literally hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of other lessons of everything from lions to horses, cats, dogs, you name it, is pretty much all on there. So hope to see you there real soon.